Yo guys, so in the previous video we spoke about whether or not you should or whether or not you have to calculate or track or count your calories. And in this video we're going to be going over whether or not you should or have to track your macronutrients. So if you haven't checked out the previous video, I'd recommend you check that out first, because understanding calories and how they work and whether or not you should track them is primary, like it comes before macronutrients. And also a video on what a calorie is and a video on what a macronutrient is. So if you don't understand what a macronutrient is, then check out the description box. I will link these different videos. But perhaps you've come across many people on YouTube or Instagram who they talk about if it fits your macros and stuff like this. They will track the calories. They have a certain number of calories they eat a day, but then they divide those calories into a certain number going towards protein, certain number towards carbohydrates, and certain number towards fat. Certain amounts towards these, and then they'll have like ratios of macronutrients, so 3 to 1 to 1 or stuff like this. Or you'll have I don't even know if that's a correct ratio, but then you'll also have like the percentages, or they will say I have 100 and something grams of protein, for example, and let's say 250 grams of carbohydrates and 60 grams of fat, and you'll hear all these different kind of things. So that's basically the idea. That's basically what it looks like, or that's what it sounds like. You have your calories and then you divide it into 3 of these things, which then make up the total number of calories. Now this can be very confusing and put many people off from the beginning, because calculating calories alone already seems like it's a bit of a task for someone who isn't doing that, let alone doing that, but then also trying to divide them into 3 different macronutrients and all this kind of thing. So the question then becomes, is there an easier way? Do you have to track your macronutrients? The answer is yes. Yes, there is an easier way, and you don't have to track your macronutrients. So I'm going to be giving you guys the alternative now. The easier way is you track your calories and your protein, but you let your carbohydrates and your fat intake fluctuate. And the reason why is this: when it comes to gaining weight and losing weight, calories are king. I've mentioned this in many videos. Caloric deficit to lose weight, and caloric surplus to gain weight, to put on muscle. And now again, I will link descriptions, link videos in the description box. But then macronutrients are important because they're going to influence the kind of weight that you gain or you lose. In other words, your body composition, how much of your weight is muscle, how much is fat, so on and so forth. However, the most important macronutrient that directly influences body composition is protein. Carbohydrates and fat don't have a direct link to you building or preserving muscle like protein does. Even if someone decided they were going to eat high carb and low fat, or low carb and high fat, as long as their protein is on point and their calories are on point, they are going to successfully lose fat, or they are going to successfully build muscle. That is, various studies show that whether you eat high carb or high fat, so long as your calories are on point and your protein is also under control, then you are going to see results. That of course doesn't mean that carbohydrates and fats aren't important. I have a video on the macronutrients, check that out, it'll explain more. It just means that you don't need to track them gram for gram like you will need for protein, because they're not directly linked to muscle growth and muscle preservation. I would recommend, however, that your carbohydrates are on the high side, because you're going to need enough energy to perform your best in the gym, and performing your best in the gym is going to help you build muscle or preserve muscle. And therefore, with every protein source I have in my meals, I have it with a carbohydrate source. It's quite frankly also plain and boring to just have protein sources, chicken and like this by itself. Okay, so I have it, for example, I might have chicken with rice, so it's carbohydrates with a protein source. I might in my next meal have chicken with a wrap, okay, and then maybe I'll put cheese in that wrap, and that cheese is what? It's a source of fat. So throughout the day when I'm getting my protein sources in, the protein itself usually has a little bit of fat in it, like chicken does have some, especially like lamb and beef do, and then therefore when you calculate the whole, and then it has dairy like with the cheese and stuff, then usually just from that alone, I know I'm getting enough fat from a health perspective. And then because I'm having a carbohydrate source with the protein source each time, then I usually am getting enough carbohydrates as well. But you can track the carbohydrate grams, protein grams, and fat grams if you want to make sure you're getting them in optimally from a fitness perspective and from a health perspective. But solely if you're looking at it from a muscle perspective, then the only thing that you absolutely need to do is track your calories and your protein. So what's the bottom line? The bottom line is this: you don't have to track each macro gram to gram. Instead, what you do have to do is, number one, ensure that you are either in a caloric deficit if you're trying to lose fat, or you're in a caloric surplus if you're trying to build muscle. And number two, ensure that you are getting about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day, and the rest of your calories can be made up of however many carbs and fats you want. You don't have to know the exact number of grams of the fats and the carbs, but you do for protein, and eventually the three will add up to your calories. You just don't necessarily need to know the numbers of fats and carbohydrates you're having. Just make sure that you're having enough from a health perspective. I hope this all makes sense, and I'll see you guys next time.